everybody, this is Alex Fitzgerald or Assassinato with a new free training video. Go to pokerheadrush.com if you want content like this every single day for free, delivered to your inbox. So here we have Ace-10 offsuit, and you're in a loose $26 buy-in, and you're going to go ahead and open here, and we're going to put you in a hypothetical just to start with. Villain 13 3-bets you. Now, let me ask you, what would it take for you to continue in this hand? The stack depths are such that a 4-bet would definitely be hard to make work. So let's just consider the call for now. What kind of player would you typically want to play with here? Let me give you 3 situations and let me ask you whether you should fold, call, or raise in those situations. Let's say you know nothing about this opponent. It's just a $26 tournament, $27 tournament. This is the first 3-bet you've seen. Let's say this person has 3-bet you. This is the third time. This is the third time in 2 orbits. What should you do at that point? What if this is the 6th or 7th time in 2 or 3 orbits? What should you do? Let's go through all those scenarios. So first of all, if this is the first time you're getting 3-bet, the open is debatable to begin with, but if the table's soft enough, you can get away with it. But if all of a sudden, the whole reason you open here is because these players are loose passive. If all of a sudden a loose passive player 3-bets you here, you get out of dodge. You're done. You don't want to play a big pot out of position with a capped range. That's typically not how you make money in No Limit Hold'em. The way you make money, if you look through any database, if you watch any good player play, it's going to be big pots in position with superior hands. If this person has 3-bet you a couple of times, then generally you don't want to continue either. Even if this is the third time, in a couple of orbits someone has 3-bet you, you don't want to continue. Why? The vast majority of the time, you've just run into a number of hands. This is not a situation where someone would typically be going after you. Under the gun and under the gun +1, if they were going to let you go get your raise through anywhere, it would likely be when you're under the gun. When they 3-bet here, they have to deal with 6 other players who could wake up with a hand. So typically, most players are not going to do this willy-nilly. Even if this is the third time you've been 3-betting a couple of orbits, what most likely happened is the guy picked up a couple of hands before and he picked up a hand here. Everybody's allowed to get hot. Every time I let this go, almost 9 times out of 10 when I let this go, on the third time I tell myself, if he plays back at me one more time, now I'm going to have to do something about it. 9 times out of 10 it never comes because the guy just picked up a few hands. So I'd really recommend you do not overextend yourself with a big pot out of position until you have better information. Now let's say this is the 6th or 7th time and that was the actual situation we were facing here. Now it's time to play ball. We're going to take a flop. So this person had been 3-betting their ass off versus me. So I decided to take a flop. And the board comes Queen 2-6. You, viewer, would you like to check or bet? 5 seconds. Time is up. We check here. And this player bets 445. Here, would you like to fold, call, or raise? 10 seconds. Time is up. We go ahead and call here. We'll discuss why we do everything at the end of the hand. The turn is the 2 of spades. Would you like to check or bet? 5 seconds. That's enough. We check here. This player checks back. The river is the 10 of hearts. Here, would you like to check or bet? 10 seconds. 5. If you did want to bet, how much did you want to bet? Time is up. We decide to bet half pot here, and this player folds. So let's break down this hand quickly. The biggest decision was whether to continue or not pre-flop. That is where all the money is won or lost. Your most frequent decisions are going to be pre-flop decisions, so you want to make sure you get those down pat. Those tend to not be the most sexy decisions. Those tend to not be the most attractive. Those tend to not be the most fun to discuss. They don't exactly light up YouTube, but they're very important. Now, on this flop, we're facing a bet. There's no need to turn your hand into a bluff because it's very likely ace-10 high is the best hand right now. What's the issue? If you're calling here pre-flop, it's because you believe this guy is a goofball who's going at you with king-7 suited, jack-8 suited, all sorts of stuff you're beating right now. What's the issue with calling here? The issue would be if this person could actually barrel down, if this person could actually get you off of hands. Now, something you will notice at low-stakes games is many guys, that's where they blow off some steam. That's where they have some fun. They 3-bet a lot of people, they c-bet a lot, but then after you call, they go, all right, you got a little something. It tends to be as you move up when people start understanding capped ranges and they start taking some bigger bluffs that might not work a large percentage of the time, but over time will be profitable. So when you're dealing with people who are just playing for fun, they typically don't want to take those high variance routes just because it can be a little jostling. It's not as fun, and that's why they're playing. It's for fun. So we do call here. If this person had fired again on the turn, it would have been okay to let it go. This person checks back. Now, when we make the 10 on the river, because this player is so aggressive, it is very likely that that person would have fired again on the turn with a queen. So it's very likely that person would have fired with kings or aces as well. We're also blocking aces. So it's very likely that our hand is the best hand. The question is, how do we get the most money from it? The great thing about these players who are playing for fun is they're not exactly sensitive to bet size at the beginning of the tournament when it's all monopoly money and they got a ton of it. So if you just bet half pot, most people take half pot to be just an automatic bet. So they could conceivably just believe you just went at it with king jack offsuit. You just went ahead and check called on the flop and then led river. Just as a bit of an out of position float. Whereas if you really start racking chips and firing them in there on the river, now they got to think about it a little bit. It doesn't look like, oh, he just smashed the half pot button. Okay. So, yeah, that is the value bet we go for. Hoping to get value from, you should, every time you bet, you always want to be betting when you play no limit hold'em. There's so many good things that could happen when you bet. You could have the best hand, you could get more money from a worse hand. You could have the worst hand, but you could get a better hand to fold. You could have the worst hand, but now the person starts reacting to you and giving you cards, especially when you're in position, so you can catch up. So they start checking to you. That definitely can always help. You always want to be in position, but you always want to be betting. And when you're betting, you always want to ask yourself, is this for value or is it a bluff? And if it's for value, you got to ask yourself what you're expecting to get called by. Now here, would 3s, 4s, 5s, 7s, 8s, 9s call that bet? Definitely. Would some ace highs call that bet if they just had an ace king or an ace jack that whiffed? I wouldn't be shocked. So there's definitely a lot of value when you fire there. Unfortunately, it looks like we caught him with zip and pip. Maybe his just king X goofball having fun at the table hand, and we didn't get paid off, but it was a good hand to discuss. All right, guys, that's it for this one. I'll see you for the next one of these.